All right, wildlings, you wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest podcast in Louisville, Kentucky, Sean versus Wild. I'm your host, the man, the myth, the Sean Thriller Smith, the guy putting rad back into talk radio. And today, it's time to rock and roll all night and podcast every Tuesday. It's January 16th, which you know what that means? It means it's Kevin Lyman Day right here in the studio. I've been talking about it. I've been teasing it for weeks. Today is the day you can hear my sit-down conversation. Well, I was sitting down. It was over the phone. I'm sure he was sitting down too. But you'll hear my conversation with Kevin Lyman on the show today. We're going to be talking about how he got into the entertainment business, his favorite bands growing up, his favorite bands from Warped Tour, and he even gives a shout-out to my homies in Knocked Loose. So, guys, big ups to you today on the podcast. That's high praise coming from Mr. Lyman. And he's going to be talking about the trials and tribulations of running Warped Tour all these years. And as you guys know, this is the last year for Warped Tour in its current nationwide touring form. So he's going to be talking about that. He's also going to be talking about what's in store for the future. He's going to give you some great advice along the way. This is an awesome conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Lyman, for doing this. Cool story. I think we talk about it briefly in the interview, but I had a list of people that I wanted to interview in 2018, took a photo of that list, put it on Twitter. Kevin Lyman hit me back and said, hey, let's go ahead and get this set up. So that speaks a lot to his character for me. Very thankful that he did this. Very awesome. So, and also, you know, we've played Warped Tour and stuff in the past. He's given us some breaks in the past. So very thankful for this guy today. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You guys probably know, if you're long-time listeners, you guys probably know that the intros have been running a little bit longer lately, so let's keep it short and sweet and stick around for an outro where I'll tell you all about the great sponsors here at Sean vs. Wild. So, guys, put your headphones on, crank the volume up to 10. It's time to get warped, and it's time to get wild. All right, Mr. Lyman, I tell you what, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I've made some notes here of some things that I wanted to say, but first thing I wanted to say was thank you so much, personally, professionally, and from my community, for everything you've done over the years with Warped Tour. That was like Christmas in July for us, you know? That's where we got to see all of our favorite bands all in one spot. So, I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. It's funny because a lot of people think I'm, going away completely. We're just, it's just time to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's gotta be, Warped Tour's gotta be what's going on in your mind 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. So I can only imagine.
It is quite a bit. Yeah, it is quite a bit. And it does take more time each year to try to bring a quality show to everyone. And that's the thing, it used to be, we used to not have to work on it 24/7. I mean, we actually got a month or so off to kind of do other things, right, and pursue other interests. But now it's full time to get this thing together each year.
Well, I don't envy you at all for the amount of stress and hard work that goes into it, but the product is fantastic each and every year. So I applaud you for that. And like I said, it just means a lot to me and my community, man. I started going to Warped Tour in the early 2000s and just kind of fueled my passion to want to play music. And the fact that I was honored enough or lucky enough to, actually get to play some dates for a few years, like that means a lot, So it's a great product that you're putting out each and every year.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I'm sure a lot of people ask you a lot of the same questions and everything, but I'm more interested really just to sit down and kind of find out about you, like how does a guy go from, being an everyman to having an idea and pursuing it and now having the most successful summer tour, 24 years running?
Well, I worked in the clubs of LA for 12, 13 years. It's one of those things, it's just, I worked, and then, I was lucky enough to be involved with the first Lollapalooza when it was a touring festival in 1991. I've been working with a lot of the alternative bands like Jane's Addiction and Nine Inch Nails and those bands around town. And then, went out on that tour. and, kind of just kept plugging away. And then really, Warped was going to be my kind of exit song to the music business. I've said that before, that I was going to go out for one last summer and do something with some friends and kind of blend this whole skateboard culture and music together that we'd been living on the West Coast. And thought I'd take it out to see what the rest of the country was like, and see how they would respond. And, it's been very surprising and very, I've been very honored and lucky to be able to go out and do this for the 23 summers. And this will be our 24th summer. And our last full summer, and it's bittersweet in some ways. It's going to be our last full run around the country. And it's changed for many, many reasons, but I just think it's time, and it's also, I'm not getting any younger, I'm 56 years old and, getting ready, I still am as involved physically and emotionally as I ever was from day one on this tour. So I want to be able to pursue some other things while I still can.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed even on the tour, you've got a lot of interest. I mean, golfing and barbecuing, definitely, and all that good sort of thing. This will give you time to actually kick back and kind of enjoy some of the fruits of your labor.
Oh, I don't think I'm going to be kicking back too much. Since we've made this announcement, I think we've, as a company for Feeney, which I'm the CEO of, have had more calls in the last, in the last few weeks on a lot of amazing projects that we're already getting involved in. So as my wife says, the next 18 months are going to be crazy because we do have to put out the best tour we possibly can for this next summer. We've also got the 25th anniversary plans, and those are coming to shape in many ways. It's going to be a lot of little different things we're planning on doing, as well as ramping up, the company, because I have some great people that work with me that we're hoping that we all can continue working together. It'll just take different shapes and size. It'll just become different things,
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, what, you said you kind of wanted to bring that California culture and everything that you're already experiencing to the rest of the country. I mean, what kind of got you into music? Was there any band or is there any certain time in particular where you were just like, yeah, this is it. I'm really into music right now, or this band is my band?
That was really in college. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, about an hour from LA, and I kind of fell in with a crew that loved music. And, back then we were only an hour from LA, but we were out in the suburbs. We were kind of out in the sticks, and we would drive into LA during that really exciting time, of 1979, 78, 79 around Los Angeles, and started getting exposed to the early, punk bands and the new wave bands. And we just started going in, and then we started bringing these bands to our schools and putting on shows in our school. And I got involved in that. And, I was on the ski team, so I needed to raise money. So we would blend in ski team as well as ski team events to raise money. And then all of a sudden, I kind of fell in with the music crowd. I graduated from college, went over to Hawaii for a while, came home and needed a gig, and there was a job at a club. And I just kind of fell into that and started working in the clubs, sweeping the floors, loading the stages, setting up PA systems, knowing that I loved it and I loved the live music experience, but I knew that it wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to be satisfied just doing that for my whole life. And lucky enough, I just kept working up, and then it was a great time in LA, and there was a door open for a production guy that kind of, I guess gave a crap, to be honest. It's really all I paid attention to detail, and I got a good name around LA, and having that good name and putting in my time, those 12, 13 years around LA, allowed me to go out and do the first Warped Tour, which wasn't a success at first. And, it's very lucky. I look at it very lucky that I was very lucky.
Yeah. And what a time to be alive, Los Angeles in the 80s. Like I said, you've got the punk, you've got the new wave, and of course the Sunset Strip bands of the metal, the hair metal, all that sort of thing right at the same time. So you're in a melting pot of up and coming music, and anybody that's making moves in the music world is right there in your backyard, And
I was lucky because a lot of the punk guys, though I gravitated towards punk, they didn't want to work other shows. And I was like, I wanted to work every night of the week. So I kind of hooked up with a promoter out here, Will Nelly, who was doing all the hair metal bands. So I was working up at the country club a few days a week. I was working the punk clubs the rest of the time. And I witnessed that whole era of Warrant and Poison and, on and on and on. type Bang Bang and, 100 hair metal bands got signed by the major labels of that period and Leatherwolf. And I was working those nights, and I'd go work the music I love the rest of the time.
Right. What are some of the bands that you hold near and dear to your heart as like your favorite just to listen to?
Well, listen, I love the Ramones. I got to work many, many shows with the Ramones. I kind of became the West Coast guy that did all their shows as a promoter rep. So I probably did about 50 Ramones shows. And I really enjoyed working with them. I enjoyed doing that. And, I love Rancid. I love bands of that era, seeing Bad Religion. That's the world I grew up with. And, a lot of people sometimes give me a hard time about Warped. And I wish those bands could still do Warped and tour that heavily and as hard, core as Warped is. But those are, that's the music I love the most.
Right. Well, and I feel like in a way, Warped gave a lot of those bands like a second resurgence because, a band like Bad Religion, even whenever I was growing up, I would say my first shows were like in 2000, 2001, Bad Religion was still riding a huge wave. Rancid was still riding a huge wave. And all these bands were, still the band to go see, even though like, that they had already put their time
in. They still
in.
are in some ways. For a lot of us, they still are,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're coming from the clubs in LA, and how do you get hooked up with Lollapalooza?
Well, Lollapalooza, that was an era of LA, Perry Farrell. We were doing 7 nights of Jane's Addiction at the Palladium. I was doing local production for those bands. And, I was asked to go on that first tour, which was pretty awesome. And I had no idea what I was doing out there. Believe it or not, to be able to say that your first national tour was stage managing Lollapalooza in 1991, most people would say, wow, that's crazy. Usually you start working in clubs. But I put all this time into clubs, and they knew me as the guy in town that worked his ass off. And I got asked to go and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of times that's the key is you just got to outwork everybody else.
Just keep working, keep a positive attitude.
Yeah. So you coming from the clubs, you got Jane's Addiction, you got Lollapalooza, and then what sparks the idea, for Warped Tour? I guess where did you get that one spark?
I was sitting in the snow after we were doing a show called Board Aid, where we'd have snowboarding up in the mountains and a board across and a skateboard ramp. And I'd been doing events with music and skateboarding around California. We got the Red Hot Chili Peppers for like $400 to play on top of a skate ramp one day for the Vision Skate Escape. And I had heard about the X Games, that the X Games were coming. And I said, oh, man, this is all the stuff that this is the stuff that we do that we're going to end up working for someone else if we don't do it ourselves. So, going out and, went out on the limb and said, this is going to get known. And, I put those first bands together, Sublime and No Doubt and Quicksand and No Use for a Name and some of those bands. And they were all bands I knew from the clubs. So I think they were willing to take a chance with me, and I really appreciate that they went out there that first year.
And isn't it so crazy? I mean, Sublime has just a huge cult following, and No Doubt, you can see Gwen Stefani like on The Voice any night of the week.
No, I mean Gwen Stefani. I mean, it was crazy last night. I mean, she's like Mrs. Christmas right now. Seems like every time I turn on the TV, she's doing a Christmas song somewhere.
Right, exactly. So it's so strange. Well, I mean, I imagine it's just absolutely crazy to see, they're one of the bands that pioneered the whole tour, and then there's been so many bands. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think the tour's launched or at least enriched thousands of careers over the years. And I remember going and the very first Warped Tour I went to, Good Charlotte was the first band that played, and then that was before they were the darlings of TRL, and then Midtown played, and AFI played, and and I went and saw Billy Idol on Warped Tour. So it's like some of these people, like it's such an eclectic mix, but it's just enriching the careers of all these people. I mean, Eminem, I think Kid Rock. I've seen Kid Rock on Warped Tour one year.
Yeah, Kid Rock played on Warped Tour. He was on the smallest stage. So there's been a lot of people that have crossed those same stages we started with many, many years ago.
What would you say? Do you have like one standout favorite band, or the band that you wanted to get on Warped Tour so much and then it finally happened? Is there anyone that you actively pursue?
Well, I really, it was interesting. Joe Strummer was supposed to play on Warped Tour the year he died.
Oh man.
And I always tried to get the Ramones to be on the Warped. It was all these things I'd say, we'd let all their side projects play, and we'd call it the All Ramones All the Time stage. And have the Ramones close. So most of the bands that, it'd be nice. It would have nice. At one point we thought that 21 Pilots was going to play Warped Tour, and then some thing right before they blew up, and then they got pulled off, and I don't know. I pretty much had everyone I've ever wanted to play on Warped Tour has played really in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone that I know, every band that I'm into has played it at one point or another. It's kind of like a rite of passage in many ways. Yeah,
and I always thought some of these recent bands would have done well out there, but they've chosen for one reason or another that Warped wasn't for them. The bands like Modern Baseball or the Front Bottoms, things like that. I think they would have crushed it out there on Warped Tour.
Yeah, and I would really recommend to anyone, if you have an opportunity to do something of that magnitude or go out on a summer run, Warped Tour is going to whip you into shape really quick. It's punk rock summer camp, but it's also, punk rock boot camp and it's going to make you a better musician.
Yeah, it turns you into a live act, and I think in recent years it turned artists like G-Eazy into a live act, and it turned BB Rexa into a live act, and Echo Smith and Katy Perry turned into a live act out there. So I've always been proud to watch them because when they first maybe I booked them, they weren't necessarily you have to be a great live act to hold the crowd at Warped Tour. It's
so crazy to me to think back and realize Katy Perry played the Warped Tour because Katy Perry's, just a juggernaut in music right now.
Yeah, so she's been wonderful, and she's become a great citizen to the community, and that's really what I like to see as artists that do good things outside of just music, and all her philanthropy that she's been involved with is very important.
Yeah, well, I know that you're always one for giving back. You've been honored with a lot of humanitarian awards, and I know that Warped Tour always went out of its way every summer to do something for the community, to give back. Can you give the listeners some idea of like some of your work outside of the tour there for the community?
Well, we work with over 90 nonprofits. I have my foundation, Unite the United. We haven't really gone and touted all that sometimes, and maybe we should have, maybe a little more. I just felt it was what we were doing. It wasn't something we were doing to get recognition from. But it's funny because sometimes, there's been some criticism of the tour, and, we don't make 100% right decisions all the time. I don't think anyone does in life. And you learn as you go and you try to do better. And, in past recent years, working with organizations and helping build their profile, like Hope for the Day and A Voice for the Innocent. We've done the best I feel it's the best we can, because I didn't start out to be a social service tour. It was a music festival, and it transformed into a sounding board for the youth of today. And we've done what we can, and we've made them. I'm sure there's people have questioned things I've done, but I've had to make decisions. And one of the things I've always said, you have to make decisions, right or wrong, and you learn from them. So some of this, maybe the heat I've taken on social media is usually by people that if they really wanted to come stack their life up next to mine in the long run, I'd welcome them to.
Yeah, that's a big thing with social media. It's like doesn't give you any room to fail and or to make a bad decision or anything like that, because if you do so on such a public platform, and everybody feels that they have their own 2 cents or their own opinion upon what the matter might be. But ultimately, you're the guy in charge, and you're the one that's going to have to steer the ship, right or wrong.
Yeah, you do. You take the shit right or wrong, and you step on. We just have a society that tends to focus sometimes on the negative these days. We have to start looking at what people are doing good, and if you put yourself out there, you just get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great advice for anybody out there that's listening. I've said it before. Now,
yeah, when you really dig into it, you realize that, some of these people that attack you online, they do it as a profession. They don't really do anything else with their lives. They don't really put themselves out there. They sit there on their social media. and think they can, and that's it hurts. It still will hurt anyone. Anyone who says that when they're attacked online doesn't feel it is probably, covering it up. You cover it up. It still kind of stings a little bit, but you learn how to deal with it and you move on.
Yeah, exactly. So guys out there listening, let that be a lesson to you from Kevin Lyman himself. A good piece of advice there. So, and
just learn from your mistakes and move on.
Absolutely. Well, and just speaking about moving on, you're talking about the first year Warped Tour, and it just kind of grew. Now you said the first year wasn't profitable. When did things start coming together? When did you get Vans to kind of sign on with that? Was that from day one?
Vans got involved the second year, and they've been with me ever since. They've been a good partner. We've now been together. It'll be 23 years this summer. They'll be with us again. They came on, and the original, he's no longer with us, Walter Schoenfeld. But Walter was a brilliant man, and he really, it's one of those people I always say, a lot of times in business, you have to kind of deal with people who don't want you to succeed or don't understand you or try to knock you down. Walter listened to my story and wanted to help pick me up, and he thought I was onto something, and he got involved and gave me a second chance and helped me get there, as well as bands like NoFX and Pennywise, because having them sign up in the second year kind of legitimized us within a scene of people, because I was the guy who loaded everyone's van. No one really knew who I was when I started Warped Tour. I was the guy in the background. And those bands helped me kind of bring it out into the forefront a bit.
Yeah, because you were saying like Sublime, No Doubt, in the first year. I mean, Sublime, No Doubt, both kind of had, I guess, more ska, reggae, definitely type of influences. But yeah, I guess the second year, is that when it maybe started focusing more on punk?
Yeah, they hadn't broken yet. Those bands hadn't really broken yet. They broke 6 months, 7 months after Warped Tour.
But I was going to say, would you think second year it's more focused on punk rock, and that's kind of been the trend going forward, or?
Yeah, I mean, we got known as punk rock, but even in those first years, couple of years after NoFX and Pennywise was there, you have to realize that's where Kid Rock came from, and the Black Eyed Peas were on the tour, and M&Ms of the world. So we were a very eclectic tour. I think we were always a very eclectic musical tour, but we kind of got that when that term punk rock summer camp started getting thrown around. Everyone kind of viewed us as, that was our kind of world where we were in.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. That's kind of what I always pictured, because the first time I ever had heard of Warped Tour is I was watching a Blink 182 cassette tape, and it showed them playing like the third or fourth Warped Tour. And I was like, this has got to be, like you were saying, like the punk rock summer camp. This is where I have to go to find more bands like this.
Yeah. And I ran into someone yesterday who worked on the tour, a woman who worked on the tour early on, and you immediately start flashing back. And she says, you know what, Kevin, all my best friends came from that era of time working on that tour. It was completely chaotic, complete chaos. Back then, it was a little wild at times when you're traveling with bands that we did back then. But she says, I learned so much about who I was, and that's what makes me really feel good, because I go out and see other festivals now, and how many people started on Warped Tour are now running some of the biggest festivals in the country.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, I feel like that's still what she's told you is still relevant for most of us out there that, did Warped Tour, not, like from a band's standpoint, or from anybody that, the catering crew and all that sort of thing. That, it makes memories, and you make friendships and connections and bonds and everything that just lasts the test of time. And you find out, what you're made of, it tests your mettle.
Yeah, I know. And I've been doing that for a long time. And to be honest, one of the big reasons I'm starting looking, I'm very engaged in the tour. I don't know if you, saw me out, but I'm always up there first thing in the morning. I'm out there at the front gates. I'm working as hard as my crew. But physically, this tour is becoming, it's 56 years old. I'd like to say, most of my friends come out for 2 days and they're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. It's too hot. So, even me, I'm starting to say, like, the wear down on, the physical side of me has started to take its toll.
Yeah. I mean, how much longer can you just walk on gravel and blacktop, every summer, make those hikes?
Yeah. So we're just keep moving along, and I'm really looking forward to this last summer to get to to go out and hang out and hopefully enjoy it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I find just really awesome is it just, how we actually got together is basically I put a list out there, people that I want to talk to on my podcast in 2018, and your name was on it, and I tagged you amongst other people on it, and you hit me up and just said, hey, let's do it. And that's the way you are.
I think I said just push it off a little bit. We're here. Here we are talking now.
Yes, and I would have waited even longer to get this interview, sir. So, but that's the thing. That's how you are with all the kids that are coming to Warped Tour. If someone tweets at you like, "Hey, what time is the door open today?" or "Should I bring sunscreen?" You're that guy that's gonna give them the deets. Give them the lowdown on what they need to have an awesome day.
Yeah, so we'll just go out and do this, and it'll be fun.
Right. Yeah. So, what do you have any big plans or anything, or any bands or anything that you could I don't know, talk about that you have for 2018?
Everything under wraps, I promise.
Well, I don't blame you, because it's going to be obviously the biggest one, or as big as it possibly can be this year. And then next year is the 25th.
We can.
Right. Well, next year's the 25th anniversary, and so do you have anything planned for that, or is that also under wraps?
Well, we're gonna have a lot of the 25th anniversary stuff. We're kind of keeping it. We're kind of keeping it under wraps right now.
Well, again, I don't blame you here,
and we'll be ready. We'll talk. We'll get back on and talk about it when it's there. I'll do another podcast with you.
Hey, man, I definitely appreciate it. So, but yeah, I guess going back in here, because not only are you the mastermind here, and one of the masterminds, co-founders, what have you, of Warped Tour, and that's your brainchild, but, Taste of Chaos, you just got off the Warped Cruise.
Mayhem Festival. We've done a lot of other things, and it's I'm still doing other things. We're involved in, some of the consulting. We consult some other festivals out there right now, maybe not so much in the genre of the heavier music, but, helped out on the Pilgrimage Festival this year. We've been helping on Buka Festival for a while. We're doing some stuff right now with other people's projects in the background, moving it forward.
Yeah. How was the Warped Cruise?
That was so fun. That's something we hoped we get to do again. It was probably, none of us, we never thought it would be so much fun, and it was so much fun.
Yeah,
we're actually, have the meetings to figure out if we can do it again.
I did an interview with Josh Handy, and I'm sure but yeah, Josh was telling me all about the Warped Cruise and all the good details about like what was gonna, happen, and he was gonna leave. We did the interview, and he left, I think, like 2 or 3 days later to go ahead and catch the cruise. I was curious just how everything turned out. It looked like so much fun, and from what you said, it was fun. But I take it went off without a hitch.
No hitches. We had a blast. We had a great time. The bands had a good time. We put a great, bunch of bands there. Bowling for Soup. All the bands that engaged with the fans, and it was super fun.
What are some of the biggest challenges going from having Warped Tour on land and then having Warped Tour on sea?
Oh God, it was. I really didn't know. It was just we got to hang out more with the fans. I mean, get to know the 2,000 people that were on ship. You keep crossing paths with them, and you hang out and talk to them. You learn a little bit more about their lives. Where with Warp, sometimes, it's a high five, hey, what's going on? But we've got to move to the next city. Here we were there together with people for 4 days, so I actually got to learn a little bit more about the people on the cruise, and many of them were lifelong people of the, that've been coming to many, many Warp Tours through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you get to like indulge in anything? I mean, did you actually get to,
I watched all the bands. I actually got to do a thing with 303, a question and answer. And me and my wife one night with the wives of 303 and the guys in 303, I think we were at emo night dance party until about 2:30 in the morning. It was a long night for us.
Right? Yeah, that sounds great. So, well, I'm glad everything worked out so well. And those kind of cruises, obviously I'm a big fan of Warped Tour, big fan of like, I've been seeing a lot of people like in wrestling and kind of like other pop culture things. They're getting into the cruise game. And I'm thinking, what a great, in rock and roll and stuff like that, what a great way to, you go on vacation, you see all the bands that you love, or you see all of the whatever pop culture that you're into. And then the best part is you're on a boat with these people for 4 days. So you actually get to meet somebody face to face or have some personal FaceTime with these people that whose careers you followed.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows? More might manifest in something else in the future. We'll see.
Any plans to do anything international this year? Like
Japan. We got Japan. We're about ready to announce Warp Japan. That'll be the first weekend in April, and we're gonna get going on that. We're announcing a pretty cool lineup over there, and that'll be the first weekend of April.
Gotcha. Well, that would be exciting. If I'm in Japan, I'll just have to stop in, say what's up.
All right, absolutely. Drop on by. We're doing them Osaka and Tokyo, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then, and also too, you're still doing the AP Music Awards? Do you still have any kind of?
No, I talk to Mike often about it, but I'm not as involved as we try to merge up with them so the artist can make an approach there, and I'm always there if he has any questions or to call.
Right. Well, and also just to kind of, I don't know, talk. We're talking all this business with you, but what do you like? What do you like outside of business? What are some of the things that you're into?
Well, I just got back. I just got back a couple nights ago, and Saturday night I was in Brazil for a week fishing on the Amazon River, and had a fantastic time. I love fishing. I love gardening. I love cooking. And I got some good stuff cooking tonight. I've got a couple pork loins. Trying a new recipe tonight, kind of a root beer barbecue pork loin. And try that. I don't know. I like cooking. I like hanging out, gardening, but fishing's my big passion. Starting to look at, hopefully, it's 84 degrees out here on the West Coast right now, so I'm hoping it cools down and trying to think about going skiing at some point.
Well, I'm very envious of you there because it is a striking 40 degrees here with the wind, and you just walk outside and that cold air just slaps you in the face here in Indiana. But I'm glad that it's nice. You got the grill going.
It's a little too hot, and the fires, and I've had a few friends lose homes, and I just found out while I'm sitting here talking to you that another one of my friends lost his home.
My goodness, man,
that's now that's 3 people I know who lost their homes in the last week to the fires.
Yeah, the California. I'm not sure necessarily where you are specifically in California, but it just seems like they've been having there's a lot of stuff going on this year. It's been having a hard time.
Yeah, global warming. We can argue about global warming or the changing environment. And it's funny because people don't realize that I've noticed this. I'm a guy who's traveled out on the road between Lollapalooza and Warped Tour now 27 summers. The storms are getting fiercer. They're lasting longer. They're more unpredictable. There's no way we should have 84 degrees for 10 days of wind out in California in December. This is unprecedented. There's something here. So, really one of the things, and, it's funny, people can say, oh, you're doing this. I go, I want to maybe focus on some of this other stuff, that there's some big stuff going on in this world. And, for me yesterday was, seeing that, it's very, very cool about, kids getting involved and watching the youth turn out to vote yesterday down in Alabama. Now, people are going to have to get engaged here. I think what's going on in society, we're seeing a shift that we have to recognize.
Yeah, you have to be proactive. You can't be reactive, and I'm thinking the same thing, just as someone seeing it from my community and seeing it from my age, range, and culture and that sort of thing, that, people are actually really starting to get involved, and people are deciding that, hey, like, things don't have to be the way that they are. It's time to make a change, and it's time to stand up and do something about it, which is the punk rock attitude that,
And, that's you just have to stand. You just have to stand for something, and sometimes that might be controversial. It's funny how people go, oh, you have this person at the Warped Tour with a booth, and that booth might not line up with what they agree with, or with even what I agree with. But you know what? You put things out. You have to be able to have people in a room with different opinions to ever move forward.
Yeah,
and I think we've walled off ourselves so much that we don't want to even associate or speak to people. You have to be able to have conversation to move forward. And I think that's a big thing right now.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, every year, I mean, a big staple every summer is like PETA. Of course, that's controversial concept to many people. Or if you have like something that's pro-life, or you have something that's pro-choice, or you have.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing about the pro-life thing was they were actually pro-adoption, and I was adopted, so I understood where they were coming from. But people don't realize I'm a donor to Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And we used the pro-life group to encourage the Planned Parenthood groups to come out to have a counter opinion, because they didn't return our emails when we emailed them originally.
Yeah. Wow. That's well, I guess that's one way to get the attention, if you could.
Yeah. Why not?
So, but yeah, and you were talking, you've been through years and years of touring and all that sort of thing, and you've seen the adverse weather conditions, and that's a big thing that I noticed. Like, if you ever do a full summer on Warped, it's like some days you are holding down a tent with your full body weight and trying to keep it all in one piece. What are do you have any stories specifically of any certain dates or any certain times where you've kind of been like in these adverse conditions?
No, absolutely. We had a massive storm that came out of nowhere in Cleveland and blew the lids off the drain, the sewer drains, and tents up into the 20-foot in the wire poles. We, were 2 feet underwater in Florida a few years back. We get hit a lot,
Yeah,
it's
most memorable for me in 2014 dust storm in New Mexico, and.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I think it was either 2013 or 2014, like a tornado in, it's not Detroit, but the Palace of Auburn Hills. So, and everybody had to just go into the stadium,
Yeah, put everyone in the arena. I remember that storm because I had to walk out, and we got that show torn down and got everyone inside, and then we opened the doors and started the show about 30 minutes later.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's kind of the thing with the tour. It's like I said, it's summer camp, but it's also boot camp, because it's going to be hot, or it's going to be cold in the mountains, or you're going to be sunburnt, or you're going to be drenched in rain, or something's going to happen, and it's going to really toughen you up. Like I said, it's going to test your mettle and make you a better person and a better musician, I think, coming out of the other end of it. So,
right.
But yes,
yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and looking back on it, do you have any like favorite moments or memories from the tours going on? Like any favorite days?
I always have those memories. They're usually on days off when I take the bands fishing, or we've gone whitewater rafting, or we've done fun stuff like skydiving together. And barbecuing. The barbecues are always fun. But just watching bands grow. You bring those bands out, and the next thing you know, they've got a big following, or they're moving on and doing bigger tours after the Warped Tour. The artist development side has always been a huge part of what I really love to do. Yeah,
and like that is a great way to. I think if you can make it on Warped Tour, like it's just going to open up all these doors. Currently, I'm friends with a band here from my area called Knocked Loose, and it looked like they really. They really put themselves on the map this year over the past summer of Warped Tour, and they're getting a lot of huge opportunities. Yeah,
there was some discussion there, and I thought that was the right stage for them, and their management thought, maybe they should be on a bigger stage, and I said, you know what, sometimes it's best to be the biggest band on a smaller stage than the smallest band on a bigger stage.
Absolutely.
And they really work their asses off, and they're a great band, a favorite of my family. I think my wife likes them a lot. My daughter likes them a lot. She dragged my wife out to see them when she came out to visit, and I've always enjoyed that band, and I think they're going to go on and do great things.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure they're going to be super stoked to hear you say that. Isaac, I've known Isaac, who's their guitarist. We toured in bands, two separate bands went on tour together when he was 15 years old. So I've known him ever since he couldn't even drive a car yet. And he's always been super talented, and those kids are great.
They're good people, and I think they're going to do well with them for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, too, do you have a favorite venue or location that you look forward to every year?
I always try to find something positive about everywhere, and that's like not a scapegoat thing. You know, of course, I love places like Ventura or San Francisco because the friends and family are there and all the people that are visiting. But it's, you know, you try to find something positive in each and every day. And I think that's important if you're going to tour, because otherwise touring can become quite a routine, a fantastic routine, but it can become routine. And if you're only looking forward to one city, then you miss all the other ones. So I always try to find something, you know, positive about everywhere.
Yeah, because otherwise,
you know, it's hard sometimes with St. Louis, because every time we could go there, it seems like to be the hottest day of the year, and it's 90-something% humidity. But you know what? I take a little bike ride before it gets too hot. And there's a few places I stop and you know, grabbing a soda or a juice or something, and usually run into a couple kids going to the show, and they'll recognize maybe who I am, and I sit there and talk to them just about what life is like in St. Louis, and then ride back and do a really hot, sweaty day where all you're hoping is when the sun sets for a few minutes, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the Midwest for you. That's right in my general vicinity, because you know I live in southern Indiana. I live right across the bridge from Louisville, Kentucky. So you know, whenever I caught a Warped Tour, I was lucky to catch Warped Junior in Louisville one day. But when I catch a tour, it's either, you know, Nashville, St. Louis, Cincinnati, or Indianapolis. And it seems like every year, especially in Indianapolis, it's like every year it's the Klipsch Center or Deer Creek or whatever it's called is just a mud puddle every year that I go.
Yeah, the big hole fills up with mud there, and we move on, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's like, it's always so hot and it's always so muddy and everybody's covered in dirt and mud by the end of the day. But, you know, that's the price that you pay to see all your favorite bands and have the best day of your summer.
And I wish we could tour. I wish we could tour when the weather was better, but, you know, people ask us often about that. And you know, a lot of people, and I'm like, I wish we could, but, you know, we have to work 6 days a week, sometimes 7. We're doing 18 shows in a row this year.
Oh, my gosh.
To make this work. I mean, people don't realize that those stages, those trucks, all the crew are paid even on the days we don't do shows. So we go out there and work hard. The Warped Tours, and this year being the last full tour, we're jamming in as many shows as we can into the time that we have to be on the road.
Yeah. Whew, man, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited already. And
I got up early this morning and started riding my exercise bike a little more. Got up before sunrise and started working out, to be honest, just to start getting into shape so I can go out there and do this summer.
Yeah. Well, I'll be out there this summer, so hopefully, you know, when I see you, we'll have a high five, talk about the show, and maybe a beer.
Be sure to come and say hello. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and really to wrap it up, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got the pork loins on, brother. You know, I don't want to keep you too long, but I guess the biggest thing is, you know, my listeners out there, you know, they look up to you. You know, you're like the godfather of the punk rock, you know, thing. Warped Tour is the tour everybody wants to be on. It's like I said, it's a rite of passage. It's kind of when you know that you're doing something right. But I guess, do you have any advice, or what are some advice that you can give? Maybe not even just a musician, but somebody that has a dream, that has an idea, that wants to see it to fruition here, and make something of themselves, make something work. Do you have any advice for those people out there listening?
You know, be patient. You know, I didn't decide to go out and do Warped Tour after my first day working. I get so many people in here that go, I want to start a festival. And I go, how much experience do you have? And they go, none. And I'm like, do you have, you know, it's put in your time. You know, I put in 12 years of working up to 320 shows a year. Yeah, 320 shows a year just to build that reputation as a hard guy that I was allowed to fail because I had helped so many other people. They gave me that second chance. And that was really important. Hone your craft. If you're a band, become your best band, the best band in your own backyard. So, you know, be the band that can sell out shows in your thing. Hone your craft. Continue writing. Write. You know, make sure you have great songs. All bands that stand out and grow have a great song. There's a lot of great musicians, but it comes down to having some great songs.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, just, you know, been very lucky. I've still got a lot to do with my life. I'm not going to just disappear. I can assure you.
Yeah,
But I'm doing a lot of things.
just going to be working, but in different directions and different areas.
Different directions in different areas, exactly. So, that's great. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, no problem. And I thank you so much for your time today. And like I said, thank you, just like I said, professionally, personally. I wouldn't have, had the career that I had as a musician, but now I wouldn't even have this podcast because so many of my connections are those friendships and those people that you meet on the Warped Tour. Now I've got you here, and it's all come full circle for me. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to seeing the news of everything that's going to be coming up for this last nationwide run of Warped Tour this year.
Yeah, we'll see you out there this summer. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time, and you have a great one.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Boom, shakalaka, people. That was my conversation with Kevin Lyman. Mr. Lyman, thank you so much again for doing the Sean vs. Wild podcast. That was very awesome. I got a great feeling. We got a lot of new listeners here this week that are tuning in. And if you are a first-time listener, please just, if you like what you heard, like, share, and subscribe. I'm on all the social media, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, I can pretty much be found. Or just tell a friend about the show and have them listen to it. Word of mouth, that's what it's all about, dude. That's what punk rock is all about. That's what punk rock is built on. It is a community. It's a state of mind. So help out your fellow man, and let me know when I can help you out. I've got a whole platform here. So if you got something that needs to be read on the air, some hot news, a new song, new single, new video, whatever, let me know, and I will go ahead and shout it out there to all my listeners here on an upcoming episode. And also, too, feel free to check out the back catalog. A lot of great musicians, artists, entertainers, famous and almost famous, from the United States to the UK and Canada and all international. We got a lot of stuff going on here. We had a busy 2017. We're going to have a more busy, more productive, more awesome 2018. I can feel it. So check out the previous episodes. Be on the lookout for the new episodes. Also, feel free to check out my sponsors at audiofileinc.com. I'm talking about Shane. If you have an idea that you got to have screen printed on a t-shirt or a tank top or a hooded sweatshirt or a pair of track shorts or a pair of underpants, scandalous underpants, Shane can get you all squared away. He's going to take care of all your screen printing needs. So band guys and gals, get your stuff printed through audiofileinc.com. Ask for Shane. Tell him the Wild Man sent you. He's going to give you the best deal in town, no matter what town that you live in, because he's going to ship to all 50 nifty United States. Also, check out my sponsor at Audible. Audible's an Amazon company setting you up with an audiobook. Sometimes you don't have time to just crack open the book, but you might have time to listen to it. So you have over 180,000 books to choose from at Audible. And if you want to try a free 30-day trial, see what all the fuss is about, please go to audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild. audibletrial.com/SEANVSWILD. Sign up for your complimentary 30 days. That's on me, guys. That's, and when you do so, choose a book that you enjoy, and then Audible is going to give me a little kickback. So that helps me. All the money goes right back into the show. Got taxes coming up, so got a lot of things I got to buy to get ready. So, yeah, every dollar would definitely help. And also, big thanks to Joe Brock, as always. This guy's booped every dial, every episode, and I put him through a lot, and he keeps making me sound great. So he can make you sound good as well. So, Joe Brock, thank you so much, and thank you, the listener, for tuning in, guys. That's all for me today. You know me, the man, the myth, the Sean Thriller Smith. Thank you so much. This has been the Sean vs. Wild podcast.